Okay, finally, we're going to talk about play. I have a couple things that I want to say about it. God, whatever. Anyway, took me long enough. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so first of all, I just want to define it real quickly. All play is a combination of imagination and action. And there's no rules. There's no, I mean, unless you want to put rules, right? Like sometimes having boundaries is helpful for play. I think you can see, like, the way that that shows up for me is with, like with writing or with music or even with like this, right? Like this channel. It's like, okay, I need to give a time limit, um, or I want to follow a particular pattern, and see how long I can keep up the pattern or how many different things I can do with this particular pattern, like whatever it is, right? And so, right, so like you can have that kind of rule, but generally speaking, there's no like hard and fast rules because there's no like outcome expectation. That's all that play is, right? It's just like, gee, I wonder what would happen if I did this or if we played that, or let's pretend, you know, that um, let's pretend that my house is a spaceship and we are on our way to another galaxy, and then I just keep going, and whoever's in my house, whatever, like we start making up rules, like what roles for people and enacting scenarios, and that's what play is, right? And also, so like play is very fun and it can be very silly, like that's like the having no rules is so that you can be as silly and ridiculous as you want to be. uh that being said, it doesn't always have to be like the like bright and bubbly childlike thing. Like there was fun. I was watching this something I came across one of my feeds the other day of a dad filming his kid like playing with like the block train and like those like little like wooden people, and he had set up the trolley problem, so he had like four people or like five people on one side of the track and the other person on the other side of the track. He's like, okay buddy, like which way should the train go, like what are you gonna do? And the kid just takes the person, like the figure that was alone on the other side of the track, puts it with the other people, and then runs the train through all of the other people, right? So it's like, all right, so we're not quite we're not quite there with the moral, like complex moral dilemmas, or ethical dilemmas, um but it's like it's play, right? And it's a morbid, dark kind of play, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything, and sometimes it does, but all of that to say, like, in case you haven't noticed from my previous videos, if you've watched any of them, if this is your first one, this is great. This might be a good entry point for engaging with me. And I guess on that note, hi, I'm Amanda Jane. I am a therapist and consultant for creatives and purpose-driven professionals who are trying to stay inspired and, you know, re re realive themselves, like come alive again, especially after burnout, and so are like navigating burnout. So that's what I do, and this channel is just an experiment of like, what would happen if I just like riffed and talked for 20 minutes on whatever the fuck I wanted to talk about, and I'm hoping to bring on like more friends so that there's like a little bit more, because the conversations that I have with people sometimes, it's fun. I think it's fun, and this is my point, right? Slight tangent, like got the business out of the way. The other point that I want to make about play is it doesn't always have to be like, this like bright bubbly thing. It should be light enough, right? But if you're like me, where you are into weird shit, and or like can't help but like philosophize or like think deeply about things, then sometimes play looks like, what would happen if, like, or like what do we think the afterlife is like, and let's make up all sorts of Like, let's scenarios or exploring that. But it's light because none of us are actually, really in that, like, in that dark place with it. We're just, imagining. So, and when it, like, one example, I tried one time. I tried really hard to write a funny poem, and if you don't, I write poetry, and I have like an Instagram. It's like, and most of my poetry is like, uh, some of it's dark, and some of it's just like, intense. Maybe, I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. You tell me. I know it's not like super light and airy most of the time. So anyway, I was like writing all of these poems, and uh I was like work like two it was during the pandemic, and like two of my friends and I were workshopping once a week on Zoom and just like shooting the shit and creating art together. And so I was like, I feel like all of my poems are so heavy. I really just want to write, like, but I'm not like the heaviest person, right? So, I have that lighter side to me. How can I convey that? Like, how can I find a voice for that in my poetry? And so I was like, okay, like, let me write a poem about like just how fucking pale I am, and how like I burn in the sun after 5 seconds. And so I was trying to write this like humorous poem about sunburn, and it turned into this like existential like like burning as transformation kind of poem. And so I'm just like, I give up. I'm just accepting the fact that if you want to see how funny I am, you're just probably going to have to engage with me in person, or like this, if you find this funny. Because when I write, it's just I can't help it. I can't help who I am. I can't. So, but it's all play. Like, but it's play, right? Like sometimes it's catharsis. Sometimes it's I need to process an emotion, or I need to process something, or I'm trying to make sense of something that I'm experiencing. And then sometimes it's more of that play of like, it's more imaginative, right? Where it's, like, I want to explore a feeling. I want to explore an idea or a concept. And like, like I write a lot of poems about death, and I write a lot of poems about love. And most of my love poems, some of them have muses, but most of the time it's just imagining, like, it's just a way for me to explore uh, something that I haven't fully experienced yet. Not that I've never been in love, but just the type of love that I would like. You know what I mean? So it's fun. So that's fun to me, and it's kind of like writing something into existence and having fun with it, and just playing, right? So it's all about play. And I think the other thing that comes up with play that I think is helpful, or I hope will be helpful for any of you who make it this far into this video, or enjoy my whatever the fuck I'm doing. Especially as adults, I think we come into adulthood, or we arrive at a point where we have so many stories built up about what something is or isn't, or who we are or who we're not. And maybe I'm approaching midlife crisis, or maybe not. I don't know exactly if this is a phase or something that everybody goes through, but I've just come to a point where I've pretty much just said fuck it. Like, I don't I like to write. I like to play with narrative. I'm going to start creating my own narratives, and I'm going to stop engaging with stories or narratives that have no bearing on my life, right? And this is not to say that I don't like a story. I throw it away if it has no relevance, right? There are definitely plenty of stories, especially on like the societal collective level, that I wish I could, change the channel on. But that's that's not real. So, right, like that's not the narrative that I have control over. But I do have control over my own narratives. And so I've been playing with it. And one of the things that I think I realized from a therapeutic perspective is, if you're familiar with like internal family systems or parts work or things like that, so much of what we're doing as adults is learning how to reparent the different parts of ourselves, right? And I've come to a place where I'm recognizing that adult Amanda has learned enough and grown enough and matured enough, has developed enough self awareness that she can be trusted to be a responsible adult, right? Like she'll make sure that like the bills are paid, that the body is nourished, and and everything's safe, so that the inner children Amanda from age 5 and up can play with abandon and experiment and be engage with those types of things safely, right? Like with freedom, and I get to be the one that says yes or no to the things, right? So one of the things, again, example of this is I always wanted to learn how to play the drums, like a drum set, because I've always, like, tap was my favorite dance style. It's, rhythm and syncopation and how that interweaves with like melody and voice and all of this type of stuff is just really fascinating to me. I love it. And so I was wanting to learn how to play the drums. And of course, my mom was like, no, you like you've been taking like you learned how to play the piano. If you want to take music lessons again, play the piano. Like stick to the piano. And I was like, sure, but I want to play the drums. The piano is not the drums. So now, as an adult, like a month ago, I'm like thinking about all these things that I like wanted, like I've always wanted to do or always wanted to try. And I think I even found like a bucket list from like 2009 or 2010 of like things that I wanted to do. That was really interesting. And I can't remember if that was on there. There was some stuff on there that I was like, what? Did we really want that? I don't know if we wanted that. But anyway, story for another day. But so the drums are, I think, one of the things. And as I am realizing about myself, I tend to surround myself with creative people. And so one of my good friends, her boyfriend is a drummer, and I was like, hey, Arnaldo, do you teach drums? And he was like, not if I have to, but I can help. Like, who is it for? And I was like, it's for me. And he was like, oh, sure. So I'm learning how to play the drums. And that's a lot of fun. And also challenging because one thing that I'm learning so I'm learning the drums and I'm also learning jujitsu because that was another thing. And in both cases, I've stopped asking why. I'm just observing that I've picked two new hobbies that require a lot of like isolated coordination is how I'll say it. So, and again, like I grew up dancing, so I thought I was like, I know coordination, like, I can coordinate, like I can make the different parts of my body do different things. It's not, it's different. It's different. Because, my teacher will be like, all right, so your right foot is going to be hitting the bass on like the 1 and the 3. And your left foot and your right hand are going to be hitting the hi-hat at like double time. And then your left hand is going to be hitting the snare on like 1, 2, and 4, right? And so it's like, or whatever it is, right? So it's like this like syncopated or like coordinated thing. And so each body part is doing something like just slightly different, or like 2 might be coordinated, but the other 2 are not, and they're opposite. So it's really making my brain do things. Like it's making my brain learn how to function in a completely different way and stay on time. So, maybe in 5 years I'll be able to play the drums for you. No, it might not take me that long, but it requires a fair amount of practice and coordination. And then like jujitsu is similar, where it's like, you know, it's all about like we're slowing down these movements and these maneuvers that you would do in like self-defense to train your muscles to build muscle memory, so that when you're in the heat of the moment, or when you're caught by surprise or whatever, you just know what your body knows what to do and how to do it right. And so there's like, when you slow like a fight sequence down, there's so much to it. So I'll like finally get the right like position for the arms, but then I'll be like, oh shit, now my feet, I haven't been, like, all of this stuff. So and this message is brought to you by, practicing throws yesterday, like the over the shoulder thing. And yeah, there's the lesson that I have learned is like, do less, like think less, which has been really good therapy for me, because I'm an overthinker and an overanalyzer. And I like, if someone's like, you don't have to do anything, just be still, just like be patient. So I can sit still. I can act patient. But if I don't have like, as soon as that happens, if I don't have anything else to like stimulate me half the time, I'm gonna start making things up, right? So like, I'm gonna make up a story. I'm going to start singing songs in my head. I'm gonna like try and play a game. Like, I need something to occupy my mind, because I just cannot. My mind needs to be fed significantly. It is a very voraciously hungry creature that lives inside my body. So, so, yeah. So this like whole like do less concept is really helpful in trying to teach my body and my brain how to not get in the way of just letting things flow. And that's great. It's a good lesson. And all of that comes from play, right? It comes from this, when I went into jujitsu, not having a background in martial arts or anything, and like, being a 30-something woman who I'm like, like, I don't know, I've never done this before. Like, am I going to be in a class with a bunch of like 11-year-olds who could kick my ass? And the answer is no. I mean, there are definitely some youngsters who could kick my ass, but I'm not the only, adult beginner. And so I like go into it, like not taking myself seriously. And through that, like just by being in this space of like, okay, like we're just going to do this. Okay. You want me to just like throw my feet over my head and like throw myself to the ground and just go across the floor doing that? Sure. Okay. Like, am I doing it right? And they're like, do less, So basically it's just like having that sense of play, or bringing that sense of, like a beginner's mindset to something. And I think it's easy to say. I think that's like advice that I feel like I've heard in countless places of like, yeah, have a beginner's mindset and all this other stuff. And that, again, overthinker, the immediate response I have when somebody gives me that kind of advice of like, have a beginner's mindset, or, like just try it, just go out and do the thing, is okay, but how? Like I need the strategy. I need to understand like how this works. I need to figure this out. Right. And so I say, that's the story I tell myself. And really, it's what I have discovered for myself is, I need some direction, right? Like, so I need someone to be like, try this. And then if I try, and then I can be like, okay, I'm going to try this, but I'm going to have no expectation. And then if I can repeat it over and over again, practicing doing less, the less serious I take things, the quicker I learn, I think, is really what it is. So if that resonates with you, maybe take things less seriously and you'll learn them faster. Right? Just don't stop worrying so much about what the right way to do something is. At least in the beginning, because I think, now that I've been learning these things, I'm in this space of, okay, like I want to understand now that I like understand what it's supposed to feel like, or I have a sense of like what the movement is, or what the rhythm is, or how I'm understanding like how to carry myself, or hold myself as I engage with this instrument, or I engage in this type of activity. Now I'm in this space of, okay, like now, like what's the next thing? What's the next element I can add to start playing with, and building a certain level of like discipline, not from a like expectation standpoint, like, not discipline because you have to play by the rules, but discipline from the standpoint of, what is my goal, or what do I want to be able to play, or what do I want to have down really clearly, like, or what are the movements that I want to know, what are the muscle groups that I really need to work on, or the sort of coordination skills I need to work on to be able to get this down, so that I can start adding in this next element, right? Or playing with this next element, or experimenting with different things. like the other thing that I've discovered, right? The other thing that I finally learned after so many years of like, I feel like there were like so many of my friends, I'd be like, I don't understand music theory. like I feel like it's important for songwriting and things like that, but like I don't understand like how I like memorizing the scales. That's not how my brain works. I'm not good at memorizing. No, I'm good at memorizing, but I don't like to just do the same thing over and over again. I need like some variety. So like just doing scales every day until you memorize them was never appealing to me. And then I learned about the circle of fifths, and I like watched a 20-minute YouTube video about it, and they're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, and I get it now, and I have enough of a foundation in reading music and on the piano at least, and things like that I'm like, okay, now I feel like I can play with this, right? Now this is something that I can play with in a fun and interesting way. I have something rudimentary to start with, and then I think through that I'll finally learn the fucking scales. You know what I mean? So all of this to say, I've gone over time. I break my own rules all the fucking time, because that's at the end of the day, that can be part of play. If you've ever played a board game with a 5-year-old, you know that halfway through the game they've decided to change the rules, and then tell you after the fact, right? And so it's fun, right? It's experimentation. That's all it is. And it doesn't have to be, silly and ridiculous unless you want it to be. And it also, it also doesn't have to be about trying too hard or expecting something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm learning the drums because I want to learn how to play the drums. Do I think I'll ever be, a professional drummer? You'd probably not, we'll see. Like, I don't know. It depends entirely on how much time and energy I decide to give it as a hobby. You know what I mean? And many other things. And I think, and this is where I come back to story, right? Anything is possible. There's no rule saying that I can't become a professional drummer in 15 years if I really want to. There's no rule saying I can't become a professional drummer tomorrow. I mean, I don't really know that there's any band or audience that would want to listen to my drumming tomorrow, but you never know, right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So when you look at the world and all of the chaos in it, and I do think we're living through a particularly challenging time in history, but it's not the first and it won't be the last. And there's so much to give our energy to, you know, drain us of our energy, to worry over. There's so much that's beyond our control. I think what I think the world need, I really like the Henry Thurman quote, do what makes you come alive because the world needs people who have come alive, right? So finding the things that bring you joy, finding the things that inspire you, finding the things that allow you to release the pressure valve in a way that feels liberating and cathartic and safe, right? Like you know, where it's you know, it's you know, like a reciprocal, or there's something nurturing or nourishing about whatever it is that you're doing for that. And there's, when you can find those things, it makes life just more fun and interesting, and it allows you to show up as more of yourself, right? To be yourself in ways that feel safe and validating and good. And I think we're coming to a point where I need to talk about witnessing, because that feels like another important piece that comes up a lot. But the more you come alive, the more value you give to the life that you have, and the more respect you have for the lives of others, you know. And I'm sure there's some logical fallacies in that, but I don't really care, because again, we're talking about play, we're talking about imagination, we're talking about, you know, what is the world that you want to live in? What kind of world do you want to exist within? What kind of life is meaningful to you? What does that look like? And there might be some things that won't change overnight or even in 10 years, but there are always little things that you can start with, and you know, and things that can kind of offer, at a minimum, an escape, right? An outlet that allows you to remain present with all of the other things. And I think that's also part of it, is what will help you remain present in your life in a way that you don't want to, like, you're not constantly looking at, you know, how to run away. You know, I think, you know, reading, you know, romantic fantasy is like, that was a beginning for me, right? That kind of got me out of my dissociative funk for a while, because it was a way of escaping without escaping my life. And, you know, and then it started to inspire, you know, like it got things flowing, right? It got my creativity I can't speak. Oh my God. It brought my creativity back online. That's what I'm trying to say. In certain ways, and allowed me to sort of engage and indulge in remembering who I've always been, I think, is really what it is. Remembering who I've always been in a good way. You know what I mean? And honoring all that I've learned and all that I've had to transform and shed and, you know, reconstruct in so many different ways, to still be, you know, to still be who I am with more skills. You know what I mean? With more skills and more perspective. And there's something to be said for anybody who can resonate with that, and who's been through that, and has made it this far. So congratulations. Go play. Go play. Go have fun. And I'll see you when I see you.